Ladies and gentlemen, I want to welcome each and every one of you tonight to our last night in Tampa, Florida. I want to thank the great people of Tampa, the great people at Intercontinental Hotel. I want to thank you all for, and Jersey Joe, thank you for a wonderful lunch. I want to thank you all for greeting me and meeting me and supporting me here in Tampa with great love and affection. I truly love you. I want to say good night. Good evening to Mrs. Biggs and to Mary, my bouncer, and the rest of the listening audience. Dean, thanks for being here. Deb, glad you checked in. This is a big night for the Real Warriors Against Women. Listen, you are listening tonight to the Exceptional Conservative Show live from Tampa, Florida. We are not ashamed of the good news of conservatism, for it is the power of liberation, first to the Republican and then the Socialists. Ladies and gentlemen, tonight we will have no guests. It will just be raw here. But I want to talk with you all, especially about a true war on women. God made male and female in his image, and they're equal in his mind. You are the sons of God in his image. So why is it that totalitarians, whether they be described as Democrats or socialists or communists or Islamists or Mohammedans, feel that you are merely something to tread upon, as if a flag at the Black Lives Matter movement? When you come back, we will talk about this. The Real Warriors Against Women, Modern Totalitarianism. And I hope that you see the world in the way that they see it, so that you can make a decision for yourself to become liberated. How do we start this show? We started off like we do always, with a special message to each and every person who ever sought to be an American. Our Pledge of Allegiance.
Hi, this is Miss Tracy, and we're going to recite the Pledge of Allegiance. So take your right hand and put it on top of your heart. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Oh, what a good start. What a good start. Little story bug there. With the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, because we are one nation under one God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I am so glad that you're here. This is our last night taping from Tampa, Florida. Last night, the Underground Professor was with me as we prepared the WNJC 1360 AM radio show, New Day Black and Red, and also we released the Kraken, Ralph Chittum. So tonight, we're going to be very cerebral. A lot of people will say that I have been very monotone, very laid back in my expressions and conversations with you during this particular week in Tampa. Part of that is reason that I want to respect my fellow travelers. Don't want to become loud and obnoxious. So I try to become as reserved as I possibly can be. Want to also thank Dan Butcher for being in the chat room tonight. God bless you, Dan. Glad to have you here. And again, Mary, my bouncer, if you diss her, you diss me, you will be dismissed. And Mrs. Biggs, I'm coming home. I love you. I miss you. I look forward to seeing your pretty face and holding you once more in my arms. It's a long time when you are away from someone that you truly, truly love. And I want you all to know that since May, my wife and I have virtually been kind of like inseparable. As much as she needed me, I needed her more. Her dependence to me, or look upon me as a rock, someone who's unemotional, determined, and resolved to bring justice to light in the District of Columbia for the loss of our daughter. Well, I'm more awed by the fact that she's been, in my opinion, the woman of the year. She's been faithful. She's been steadfast, immovable, always abounding in the word of the Lord, praying, offering forgiveness to those who have done ill to us, ministering to people who wanted to minister her into grief. She's just been an incredible, indomitable woman. And I would pray that the ills that befell us would never befall anyone else. But in these particular times of trial and tribulations, Francine Milton has shown herself to be a woman of all seasons. And while they easily give awards to transvestites and transgendered people and multimillionaire guys who like to wear dresses and pretend that they're women, really, in my heart of hearts, I believe that Francine Milton deserves the Woman of the Year award. She has been a stalwart and a great lover of the souls, even those who may know in her presence what was done to her in the dark. She perseveres. She remains true and strong. And I love you, and I hope to see your face again. Ladies and gentlemen, we've been down here in Tampa. Much has been going on. Rick Trader and I talked earlier today. He is the benevolent dictator of Conservative Commando's radio show. And he and I have talked a great deal about what's happened over the past week. Much has happened over the past week. I mean, and I do mean a whole lot. You have the Black Lives Matter movement that is whining and complaining that the French police are being too hostile towards those who have invaded them. And I want to just let you all know, this is right off the bat. I'm not lying to you. This is straight up. One of the leaders of Black Lives Matter questioned whether the police in France were being too abusive to the terrorists. These are the same Black Lives Matter movement people that will not have a problem at all with gang members, apparently. And they're not going to march on those particular things. No, not stuff like that. So I just want to say this here. Ladies and gentlemen who are part of the Black Lives Movement, it's time to grow up. It really is. The whole world's not going to focus on your whining and complaining about fall racism. And they certainly are not going to be sitting around worried about whether you have been soothed while others suffer. So it's time to grow up, folks. It really is. And then really start dealing with some true issues, especially when you have the mayor of D.C. Receiving a report today that the number one issue on the hearts of Washingtonians is not the economy. Heck, it's not even homelessness or quote-unquote affordable housing. The number one issue is crime. And I'd like to thank all the GOP stalwarts who have stood in my corner, all one of you, as I was telling you that the number one issue in urban America is crime. All right? And you need to be able to talk about those particular matters succinctly. The Open Heart Closed Case campaign is one of those particular things that speaks towards that issue, unlike Black Lives Matters. I say all that to say this. From this moment on, we're going to deal with the issue of women and how women, like minorities, are being mutilated, not just by those who practice Mohammedanism, but also those who practice socialism and other forms of totalitarianism. Socialism I comment on because that's part of the new Democrat Party. So when we come back, ladies and gentlemen, I want you to buckle your seats. There is a storm arising, and that storm is on the horizon. It's about our women who are being brutally misused and abused for the sake of a political vote. You're listening to the Exceptional Conservative Show live from Tampa Bay, Florida. And I look forward to getting back to the nation's capital. Love you all. Look forward to you on the backside of this.
Right. It's gonna be a right swipe. This man just shaved his chest hair into a heart. Oh, you stole mine. Right swipe.
Right swipe. Right swipe. That kind of looks like my sister. It does. But I know she's not.
He's cuddling a kitten. Oh my God, I want to eat their faces.
Oh, she's hot.
Oh, wait. Oh.
That's a lollipop. Oh, that is not a lollipop. Left swipe.
Left swipe.
This must be some kind of joke. You think you're my type, and I'm my type. You're good in the club. I just left swipe. Bye-bye. I just left swipe.
Left swipe that.
Swipe. You gotta swipe it left.
Yeah.
You gotta swipe it
Left
left.
swipe that.
Swipe. You gotta swipe it left. This is stuff I don't like, so I gotta
Left swipe that.
Look at you with your shirt off, flex. You're buff, but you pop hashtag flex. Yeah, you work out, you're in shape, okay. I like the six-pack abs, not the six-packs a day.
Came across a photo of this green-eyed hottie. Oh, nah, pretty face, tight waist, nice body. I just couldn't overlook one small fact. She smokes like an old man at a racetrack.
This must be some kind of joke. You think you're my type, and I'm my type. You're good in the club. I just left swipe, bye-bye. I just left swipe.
Left swipe that.
Swipe. You gotta swipe it left.
Yeah.
You gotta swipe it
Left
left.
swipe that.
Swipe. You gotta swipe it left. This is stuff I don't like, so I gotta
Left swipe that.
Mr. World Traveler, your trips look expensive. Sitting on a mountaintop looking all offensive. I was about to ask, how's the air up there? But based on this pic, I guess you don't really care.
Lots of chicks in the pic, not sure which one's you. Them cigarettes are taking off tens and twos. And one thing's true about your whole crew. None of you Cinderella's gonna be my boo.
Smoking with the tiger.
Left swipe that.
While you're on a hang glider.
Left swipe that. Smoking with the healthy. Left swipe that.
Smoking all stealthy.
Left swipe that. Smoking with a duck face. Left swipe that.
At a monster truck race.
Left swipe that. Smoking at the prom. Left swipe that.
Even in a photo bomb.
He don't care. Left swipe that.
swipe. You gotta swipe it left.
Yeah.
You gotta swipe it
Left
left.
swipe that.
Swipe. You gotta swipe it left. This is stuff I don't like, so I gotta
Left swipe that.
You gotta swipe it left.
Yeah. Hashtag.
I'll never remember you.
Times are dark. The people are misled by corrupt politicians, lied to by establishment media, and deceived by the false messages of Islam. A nation looking for direction needs a guide. It needs a man with a cane. I'm Dave Milner. Join me on Spreaker, SHR Media, Pundit Press, Live, Rebooting Liberty, and YouTube for a unique brand of commentary on the unpleasant blind guy. Because the truth is not always pleasant.
In a world controlled by corrupt politicians,
You got a business. You didn't build that.
a team of ordinary men emerge from the ashes to give voice to the voiceless and hope to the hopeless. Sackhead Sean,
Dude, I'm not saying conference.
Sackhead Clint,
All good friends of ours usually show up drunk.
also starring Sock as the producer.
I'm a little bit drunk, I'm a little bit drunk, 'cause I'm drinking, drinking, drinking.
They are the Sackins Radio Show. Every Wednesday at 8 p.m. Pacific on SHRmedia.com.
Ladies and gentlemen, we welcome you back to the Exceptional Conservative Show live from the nation's capital. We are certainly not ashamed of the good news of conservatism, for it is the power of liberation. And yours truly here in this particular 9 o'clock hour. I am the king of 9 p.m. apparently. For more information, you can easily go to the exceptionalconservativeshow.com or, by golly, you can easily go, even more so, to our SHR media site, and at SHR you can go in there on the chat room. You can talk with Dan Butcher, Dean, Mary Brockman, my bouncer, and so many others who come by and give the wealth of knowledge and benefit of their experience in the conservative movement without bias or prejudice. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to play for you real quick an interview that Carly Fiorina had, and this was on Fox News now, so I just want to make certain that you all understand that I'm playing a Fox News thing. I am not a supporter or, a devoter to Fox News. It's as close to conservative as you can get, but that doesn't say very much in Washington, D.C. But Carly Fiorina being interviewed, and she's talking about Hillary Clinton and waging war on women.
She tweets about women's rights in this country and takes money from governments that deny women the most basic human rights. She tweets about equal pay for women, but will not answer basic questions about her own office's pay standards, and neither will our president.
Ouch. So Republicans waging a war on women, that's what the Democratic Party and the press say. But is it true? And has Hillary Clinton been held to account for her own personal record? Was the only female Republican candidate with an intent to run in 2016. Carly Fiorina has shed some light on Hillary's war on women during her CPAC speech on Thursday. Here to tell us more is Carly Fiorina herself. She's the CEO of Hewlett-Packard and chairman of the Unlocking Potential Project. Carly Fiorina, thanks for joining us this morning.
Great to be with you, Tucker. Thanks for having me.
So you raised kind of a great point. Hillary Clinton is all for forcing employers to pay men and women the same, and yet she didn't pay men and women the same in her own office. Women received less than men. Why hasn't the press jumped on her about this?
Well, who knows? But, I come from a world outside politics where results actually count. And the results of this administration are not good on this issue. Look, the facts are that, of course, I support equal pay for equal work, and that's why a law was passed way back in 1963 guaranteeing the same. And if women are truly being discriminated against because of their gender, they should use the law to its full effect. However, the biggest impediment to equal pay for equal work, beyond pay practices in Hillary Clinton and President Obama's offices, is the seniority system, because the seniority system pays not on merit, not on performance, but on how long you've been in a job. And that seniority system disadvantages women. And of course, Democrats support seniority systems in the unions, in federal government bureaucracy. So if they're really serious about equal pay for equal work, they ought to push for reform of seniority systems and move to pay for performance systems.
The unions would
Good luck with that.
But it does raise the question, are women necessarily better served by female politicians? Does it matter the gender of our leaders?
We don't practice identity politics in the Republican Party or in the conservative movement. We believe that our principles and our policies and our values serve best to lift everyone up. Women are now 53% of the vote. We're half the nation. In other words, we're the majority. And so I think it really does not serve women well to continue to marginalize them or to dismiss their impact in our society by claiming, as Democrats do, that we are single-issue voters, or that we can be tricked by this kind of rhetoric.
So Hillary Clinton, as you pointed out in your speech at CPAC the other day, Her foundation has her name on it, has received all this money from regimes, mostly in the Middle East, that really do subjugate women. And there's just sort of no doubt that the Algerians, for example, don't treat women like full human beings. Should she have to explain why she would take money from a regime like that?
Of course she should. Of course she should have to explain it.
Yeah.
I mean, not to mention the fact that it is a conflict of interest to have that kind of money flowing in while she is Secretary of State or immediately after she is Secretary of State and planning to run for president. Set aside the conflict of interest for just a moment. I honestly have been stunned by the Democratic Party's unwillingness to speak the truth about how women are being treated around the world. And the truth is that Algeria, among many nations, treats women in an absolutely abhorrent way. And so why isn't she prepared to call them to account as well as many other governments?
Because they're giving her money. Pretty funny. Carly Fiorina, thanks for joining us this morning.
It's my pleasure, Tucker. Thanks for having me.
Great interest, your participation in this race.
Ladies and gentlemen, yes, that was a woman, and her name is Carly Fiorina. And she's running on the Republican ticket for the presidency of the United States of America. Now, I know, clutch the pearls, I know at this particular juncture you're probably rolling over in great amazement that the Republicans actually have two Cubans, one black doctor who's probably one of the most brilliant men on the face of the earth, a woman who once ran one of the most powerful technology companies in America, a billionaire, as well as a number of other kindred-like of varied hue and variant geopolitical backgrounds. And yet, the story that is often told, especially in urban America, where the truth doesn't even get up out of bed because the lies have already been told about it and the lies are preached about it 7 days a week. So virtually, the truth won't even get up out of bed because no one's going to listen. But there is this constant choral response that only the Democrats love black people, only the Democrats love women, only the Democrats care for minorities. Now, I must tell you that once that lie has been told enough within our community, even Malcolm X, who chastised African American people in the 1960s for voting 80% Democrat, calling them chumps, that you've been hoodwinked, bamboozled, and led astray, because you are giving your power base to one party, and it's an immoral party to begin with. You are virtually attesting to yourself the privilege of slavery, because you do not have a power base in each group. Well, the story goes around for the civil rights movement that only the Democrats cared for black people, simply because Barry Goldwater refused to retract from the status quo conservative point of view that come higher water or hill or whatever you say in phraseology, no matter what comes, it's not the color of your skin that's going to make a difference in America. It is the content of your character. Overall, it will be the content of your character by which you were judged. Now, how is it that Oprah Winfrey is able to make billions of dollars? Maybe it's the content of the business character that she has. And maybe it's not because of her skin tone. So, ladies and gentlemen, there have been those who have been very enthusiastic about grandizing the concept of racial inequality and gender inequality in our communities, and thus creating a formidable, unfortunate formidable assessment of purporting human rights over constitutional rights. Well, what I want to do tonight is I want to explore with you, and maybe this will be done over a few days or so as I'm trying to, as I go through up to the new year, basically a re-education or boot camp of conservative movement, the concept of the woman in politics. I want to give you the way, first and foremost, God sees women. Okay, because often God's view of women is distorted through the glass fairly lit of hostility based on politics, hostility based on prejudices of some types. But clearly, God's intention is to show you womanhood equal to manhood, and none other than that. I want to go to the Blue Letter Bible, King James, Genesis chapter 2, real quick. Okay, for those who follow along at home and know that on Sunday mornings at 7 a.m., I do the wonderful program that I love doing so much, not New Day Black and Red, but an American Conservatives Exploration of the Inspired Word of God. And we study the Word to show ourselves approved. In chapter 2, the scriptures are taken this way. In fact, for the 15th verse. And it says, "And the Lord God took the man and put him into the Garden of Eden to dress it and to keep it. And the Lord God commanded the man, saying, Of every tree of the garden thou mayest freely eat, but of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil thou shalt not eat of it. For in the day that thou eatest, therefore thou shalt surely die. And the Lord God said," in the 18th verse, "It is not good for the man should be alone. It is not good that the man should be alone. I will make him an helpmeet for him. And out of the ground the Lord God formed every beast of the field and every fowl of the air, and brought them unto Adam to see what he would call them. And whatsoever Adam called every living creature, that was the name thereof. And Adam gave names to all cattle, and to the fowl of the air, to every beast of the field. But for Adam there was not found an helpmeet for him. And the Lord God caused a deep sleep to fall upon Adam, and he slept. And he took one of the ribs and closed up the flesh instead thereof." First surgical procedure that didn't have to go through Obamacare. Genesis 2, verse 22. "And the rib which the Lord God had taken from man made he a woman, and brought her unto the man." 23 verse of the 2nd chapter. "And Adam said, This is now bone of my bones and flesh of my flesh. She shall be called woman, because she was taken out of man." In Genesis 2:24, "Therefore shall a man leave his father and his mother, and shall cleave unto his wife, and they shall be one flesh. And they were both naked, the man and his wife, and were not ashamed." Now, I say all that to say this. There was an order given in the relationship between the husband and the wife. There was an order of discipline and responsibility, that the order would be that the father, the husband, would be subject to God, and that his wife would adore him. And thus, he, being subject to God, would be responsible for teaching his wife all that God had told him. So there was a spiritual requirement in the garden, one that Adam failed. And that's why in the spiritual falling, there needed to be a spiritual rebirth, and that rebirth being Jesus Christ. Now, I want to, okay, all right, so we're getting that thing together there, all right, so there we go. I want to take you to Genesis chapter 1, and I want to take you to the 26th verse through the 28th. And this is very important to understand the role of men and women and the earth. All right. We understand the spiritual order and the responsibility of a husband to a wife. But let's go back because there's sometimes not going to be a wife or a husband. How does God see man and woman? Genesis 1:26 through 1:28. And God said, let us make man in our image, after our likeness, and let them have dominion over the fish of the sea, and over the fowl of the air, and over the cattle, and over all the earth, and over every creeping thing that creepeth upon the earth. Verse 27. So God created man in his own image. In the image of God created he him. Male and female created he them. Male and female he created them. Created he them. God did not see any difference between the male and the female in the responsibility unto him, except when they became married. Wow. So wait a minute. God created marriage, and no man should put that asunder. But there are those who are working on it every single day. Genesis 1:28. And God blessed them, and God said unto them, the male and the female, unto them, be fruitful and multiply, and replenish the earth, and subdue it, and have dominion over the fish of the sea, and over the fowl of the air, and over every living thing that moveth upon the earth. And God said in the 29th verse, behold, I have given you every herb bearing seed, which is upon the face of all the earth, every tree in which is the fruit of a tree yielding seed, to you it shall be for meat, and to every beast of the earth, and to every fowl of the air, and to everything that creepeth upon the earth, wherein there is life, I have given every green herb for meat. And it was so. And God saw everything that he had made, both male and female, everything that he made, and he said it was very good. Very good. So I wanted to start there in terms of how God sees us. The unfortunate thing is we are somewhat clouded in the way that we see us. And we become vulnerable giants against ourselves and each other because we seek not his will, but our own. So how do we measure all that, Ken? How do we break all that down? When we come back, I want to talk about the war on women, and I want to start with Bernie Sanders. Yeah, the lovable dof of an old man who wants to take 90% of your wealth away from you and give it to the government to create jobs. Well, he has an opinion about women that needs to be explored. And the mainstream media, that MSNBC thing, they're not going to do that. The real war on women is totalitarianism. When we come back.
Hi, my name is Christopher Arnold. I'm an executive chef of a Fuse restaurant, and today I'm going to walk you through some of the meals that we prepare here. I'm making a pizza. We use French Italian sausage that we cook here and slice it up. Our pizza dough is an in-house made. Our pizza sauce is in-house made. So everything is fresh and green. This is our Thai curry chicken. The sauce is made with coconut milk and a Thai red curry. It is juicy chicken thighs as well as some mixed vegetables, served with jasmine rice and pita bread. So now we're going to prepare our famous blackened tilapia and grits, our fish and grits on the menu. And our meal will be complete. bit with our infused sauce. We start off with 80-20 USDA ground chuck ham patty burgers, like half a pound of burgers, and we're gonna grill it to perfection. After I cook the burgers, we add the sauce, and then cook on it until we use it a little bit. We're gonna add a little bit of pepper jack cheese to this burger, spice it up a bit.
Oh man. I'm telling you, one of the things I'm looking forward to when I get back to Washington, D.C. is an infused burger. I am not lying to you. It would be a most wondrous thing. Thank you, Chris. It would be a most wondrous thing to eat and to enjoy. If you never had one, you should make certain that you experience that sometime in your life, especially if you're coming to CPAC. Make certain that you stop past Infused Restaurant. And they are at 6339 Allentown Road, Temple Hills, Maryland, 20748. You can give them a phone call at 301-449-9000. I tell you, do it now. And for those who are in the Washington metropolitan area, do it now. Order your burger, pick it up. Come back. Or no, I tell you what. The weekend's coming up. This is our last show. Stay in because we're talking about the war on women. So make reservations to take the woman that you love to Infused Restaurant. That's what I would tell you to do. All right? Show her that you love her. Show her that you care. You care more for her than the Democrats and the Socialists care for her. So that's what I want you to do. InfuseInfuse.com. Ladies and gentlemen, you know what time of the year it is. It's that time of the year called Stockings for Soldiers, Delaware Incorporated. It was founded to help improve the morale and welfare of members of the armed forces of the United States of America deployed in harm's way. We accomplish our mission by sewing holiday stockings and filling them with special items for the troops. Many of the stockings that we send are for a specific person with their name on the stocking. For many troops, our gift is all they receive for the holidays. All they receive. We're trying to send a touch of home as well as personal messages of support to remind our troops that we appreciate all they do for us and to let them know that we have not forgotten them, especially over the holidays. We depend on the generosity of others to help us to accomplish our vital mission. Look at Stockings for Soldiers, Delaware Incorporated is a 501c3 nonprofit organization. As such, donations are deductible to the extent allowed by law. Check with your TECS professional to make certain that it's deductible for you. But once you figure that all out, especially if you haven't given anything to anybody this year, do yourself a favor and do our soldiers a favor. Please send your donations to Stockings for Soldiers, Delaware Incorporated, 1911 FOULK Road, Folk Road, Wilmington, Delaware, 19810. They thank you, and our soldiers thank you too.
In a world controlled by corrupt politicians,
You got a business? You didn't build that.
a team of ordinary men emerge from the ashes to give voice to the voiceless and hope to the hopeless. Sackhead Sean,
Dude, I'm not saying Conference.
Sackhead Clint,
All good friends of ours usually show up throughout.
also starring Sonic as the producer.
I'm a little bit drunk, 'cause I'm drinking.
They are the Sackheads Radio Show. Every Wednesday at 8 p.m. Pacific.
SHR Media. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank you all so much for tuning in and listening tonight. I want to play something very special. It was sent to me by the Unpleasant Blind Guy, and I think You'll want to hear this.
Time for an unpleasant blind guy, conservative bite. People, we're on our own. A sample of comments from those running for President of the United States in 2016 will help confirm this. One day after the Paris attacks of Friday the 13th of November 2015, Hillary Clinton said, "I don't think we're at war with Islam. I don't think we're at war with all Muslims. I think we're at war with jihadists. We've got to reach out to Muslim countries. We've got to have them be part of our coalition." Martin O'Malley said, "Let's not fall into the trap of thinking that all of our Muslim American neighbors in this country are somehow our enemies here. They are our first line of defense." Bernie Sanders reaffirmed his view that global warming is a greater threat than terrorism, and that in fact global warming causes terrorism. Most Republican candidates stated that we're at war with radical Islam and ISIS. Ted Cruz issued a statement saying, "We need to immediately declare a halt to any plans to bring refugees that may have been infiltrated by ISIS to the United States." Cruz also suggested relaxed rules of engagement when fighting ISIS in the Middle East. His plan is somewhat more robust than other candidates. Bobby Jindal wrote a letter to President Obama demanding answers regarding Syrian quote-unquote refugees coming into the United States, and gave the longer version of a statement he gave in January of 2015. Islam has a problem. Muslim leaders must make clear that anyone who commits acts of terror in the name of Islam is in fact not practicing Islam at all. You see a sad, familiar pattern. While none of the three major Democratic candidates, one day after the Paris attacks, were willing to even use the phrase radical Islam, their counterparts on the Republican side ride the fence between tough talk and political correctness. One can only conclude from this, people, that we are going to have to protect ourselves. This means that in situations such as those that happened in Paris and in the Oregon College here in the United States, where Christian students were targeted by a shooter, we the people are going to have to be ready to take a hand. We can and should vote for candidates that respect the Second Amendment of the United States and are ready to preserve it without reservation. But clearly, in the political reality of 2015, that's not enough. As long as our leaders and those who would be our leaders refuse to recognize Islam as the root cause of these terrorist attacks will continue, and they can happen anywhere. That being the case, each of us, as American citizens, must be prepared to defend ourselves and to defend our friends and neighbors. Where we can, we must arm ourselves. But further than that, we have to prepare ourselves mentally for a time when we, personally, may have to sacrifice ourselves for our fellows. It doesn't come from right-wing extremism, and it doesn't come from race hatred. It comes from the love of those whom you share a community with. It comes from a realization that we live in an interconnected world. When situations like the Paris attacks or the Oregon College shooting occur, even if all we have is a hand with some skin on it, we must resolve within ourselves to attack the attackers. Yes, we may be sacrificed in the attempt, but in those cases, it's better to die on our feet than to live on our knees.
Amen.
Now, I'm not saying this, people, because I want to talk big, or because I see myself as a hero in some stupid Hollywood movie. I'm saying these things because I am sick and tired of classrooms, theaters, and other venues filled with people being killed by jihadists and murdering scumbags when they could rush these people, give them a solid beat down, and hand their narrow butts over to the cops. Now, I spoke with someone about doing this fight who has been in the military, and they spoke the truth that in these situations most people freeze. But being able to do something when an attack occurs begins with the evolution of a calm resolve when you know you're right with God, or when you know you're right with your conscience, and you know you're prepared to do what you can do for the good of others. And let's not forget a man named Tom Beamer, who was on Flight 93 on 9/11 who knew his hour was up and got together with the other passengers and saved who knows how many lives. People, if the government won't act on our behalf, then we're going to have to do it ourselves. Prepare, arm yourselves, train yourselves, get yourselves right with God. Or if you don't believe in God, get yourselves right with your conscience. So that if that evil moment comes, when someone threatens your life or the life of your fellow citizens, the love in your heart for others will be expressed, and you will say, as Todd Beamer did, "Let's roll." This has been an unpleasant blind guy conservative fight.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Exceptional Conservative Show, live from Tampa, Florida. Our last night of taping here, and we're actually alive. You can listen to us via live stream or USTREAM or any stream, I believe, but certainly on Pundit Press Media, SHR Media, and Rebooting Liberty. So, ladies and gentlemen, kick back on SHR Media and enjoy the rest of this particular day. And there's an idea coming out of the chat roll, and this is why I love people going to SHR Media live chat or coming to the exceptionalconservativeshow.com and getting into the chat room. Wonderful ideas. The whole idea of a Christmas robe, a TECS Christmas robe, wouldn't that be nice? There's something warm and comfortable, especially for the frozen amongst us in Ohio. Wink, wink, Mary. So, tonight we're talking about the war on women. I want to express to you that there are some men and some women, it doesn't matter what their faith is, what their political beliefs are, or anything else. They have an agitated prejudice or bias towards certain individuals, and that may be because of their race, it may be because of their gender, but you're not in control of what they think. You can't control what they think. Even if you have litigation power, you can't change the way a person thinks. You can't force them to think a certain way. But lo and behold, I believe in all of my traveling around the U.S. and in certain places of the world, I've experienced some of the greatest people on the face of the earth. Salt of the earth. Individuals who know the Lord and don't look upon you because of the color of your skin, but look upon you with the content of character that they truly appreciate. Ladies and gentlemen, these are some of the people I've found in the Republican Party. These are some of the people I've found in the Tea Party. These are some of the people I have found in the conservative movement. Now, I'm not saying that everything is absolutely perfect, but gosh darn it, I'm not here to try to perfect them. That's God's job. My responsibility is to teach the principles by which we all agree upon. And when we agree on those particular things, the way we think will be profitable for all of us. But that's not the case with those in the socialist movement, better known as the modern-day Democrat Party. And let me just be very front forward with you in this regard. The Democrat Party wasn't your grandfather's party. It has always been your great-great-great-grandfather's party. It has been a party that has sought to equivocate the divisions and divisiveness of people and try to polarize them and then cajole them during a voting period and then release them back to what they do best in terms of being polarized, and then tell everyone in the mythology of the Democrat Party that we care for all black people, that we care for all minorities, and the truth of the matter is they don't. But here's a really condescending part of this, and I have not seen anything like this in the conservative movement. That a man would write so egregiously about women and then be able to pose with black women who fret about him, studying their own character while engulfing themselves in his and adoring themselves with a socialist. You see, Before Bernie Sanders was a senator, he was a young goofball. And that young goofball wrote something. And I've learned something about people. Until you meet Jesus, it's very difficult to change most anything else in your life. Rudimentary, what you started with is what you're going to end with. The majority of individuals I run into who have followed Christ have turned. In fact, it's a requirement of repentance to turn from your old ways. And when you revisit your old ways, to think on these things and then repent and then turn away from those old ways of thinking. Well, I don't know if this man has turned away or repented from this, but I want to read to you a 1972 essay. And that's why I wanted to read to you what God thought about you as a man and as a woman before I read what Bernie Sanders thought about you as a male or female. He writes about the sexual dynamics of the male-female relationship. Bernie Sanders, and I'll put this in the chat roll because I don't want anyone saying to Mary that Ken's lying and that he's just being bombastic and trying to get ratings for his show. I don't need to do that. But quite frankly, people, you need to know the truth about the people that you're voting for. A man goes home and masturbates, his typical fantasy. And let me just forgive me. I should have let you all know if this is too much for the kids, and it probably will be because this is 9 o'clock, and you all know I'm an adult kind of guy at 9 o'clock at night. Not on Conservative Commandos at 3 in the afternoon, but certainly at 9 o'clock at night. I'm the king of 9 p.m. Put your kids to bed. This is not the story they need to hear. You can interpret it for them later on, and whenever they listen to this show. But certainly take the kids out of the room. They don't need to hear this. It gets more raunchy and more disgusting, but this is how Bernie Sanders sees women. A woman on her knees, a woman tied up, a woman abused. A woman enjoys intercourse with her man as she fantasizes being raped by 3 men simultaneously. The man and woman get dressed up on Sunday and go to church, or maybe to their revolutionary political meeting. Have you ever looked at the Stag, Man, Hero, Tough magazines on the shelf of your local bookstore? Do you know why the newspapers with the articles like Girl 12 raped by 14 men sell so well? To what end us are they appealing? Women, for their own preservation, are trying to pull themselves together. It is necessary for all of humanity that they do so. Slavishness on one hand breeds pigness on the other hand. Pigness on one hand breeds slavishness on the other. Men and women, both are losers. Women adapt themselves to fill the needs of men, and men adapt themselves to fill the needs of women. In the beginning, there were strong men who killed the animals and brought this is what a socialist thinks of you, women. It's true. In the beginning, there were strong men who killed the animals and brought home the food, and the dependent women who cooked it. No more. Only the roles remain, waiting to be shaken off. There are no human oppressors. Oppressors have lost their humanity. On one hand, slavishness, on the other hand, pigness. 6 on one, half a dozen on the other. Who wins? Many women seem to be walking a tightrope now. Their qualities of love, openness, and gentleness were too deeply enmeshed with quantities of dependency, subservience, and machoism. How do you love without being dependent? Wow. How do you love without being dependent? How do you be gentle without being subservient? This is Bernie Sanders now, talking about male-female relationships. How do you maintain a relationship without giving up your identity and without getting strung out? How do you reach out and give your heart to your lover, but maintain the soul which is you? And men are in pain too. They are thinking, wondering, what is it they want from a woman? You got to go deep. Bernie Sanders is trying to go deep here. Apparently, women only want to be raped. So let's find out the philosophical meanderings of men. Are they at fault? Are they perpetuating this man-woman situation? Are they oppressors? The man is bitter, according to Bernie Sanders. You lied to me, he said. She did. You said that you loved me, that you wanted me, that you needed me. These are your words. They are. I want you to understand that this is the way socialists see sexual relationships between men and women. It's a game of oppression, a game of who has the upper hand, who has greater control, who's in a totalitarian state. It's about power. This is what he's conveying. And when men have power, they rape women. This is what he's conveying to you. So there cannot be a loving relationship between a male and a woman, only a needful relationship in which one gives up sex, the other one gets to eat food on Sunday and go to sleep in front of the TV, and life is all good. This is the image projected. And you've seen this image on television. You've seen this image in movies. You've seen this image over the past 4 decades. Bernie Sanders is one of those who helped tear down the family unit. Oh, I'm sorry. I digress. Let me go back to where we ended. But in reality, he said, if you ever loved me or wanted me or needed me, all of which I'm not certain was ever true, you also hated me. You hated me, just as you have hated every man in your entire life. Do you understand what he's saying here? Do you understand that he's saying that there's no way that a man can have a relationship with a woman because the woman hates the man? She would be willing to kill his son or daughter. Oh, wait a minute. Did they not create that? Let's read on. You hated me, just as you have hated every man in your entire life. But you didn't have the guts to tell me that. You hated me before you ever saw me, even though I was not your father, or your teacher, or your sex friend when you were 13 years old, or your husband. Boy, he sounds kind of angry, doesn't he? You hated me, not because of who I am, or what I was to you, but because I am a man. You did not deal with me as a person, as me. You lived a lie with me, used me, and played games with me, and that's a piggy thing to do. And she said, you wanted me not as a woman, or a lover, or a friend, but as a submissive woman, or submissive friend, or submissive lover. Notice how this power thing is working here. Just want to see if you notice that. And right now, where my head is, I balk at even the slightest suspicion of that kind of demand. And he said, you're full of crap. And they never again made love together, which they had each liked to do more than anything, or never ever saw each other one more time. That was the 1972 Sanders essay, and it was published in an alternative newspaper called the Vermont Freeman. It reflected his affinity for Sigmund Freud. Ladies and gentlemen, I want you to understand that there are those in the socialist movement that see you nothing more than property, nothing more than a slave awaiting to be told where to go, what to do, and what to suck. Ladies and gentlemen, you have a choice. Tonight we're going to talk about your choices. The real war on women is by modern totalitarianism. We'll be right back with more of the best in urban conservative talk.
Parents, ready, begin. Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, there we go, ladies and gentlemen. We are entering the final half of the Exceptional Conservative Show for the week before Thanksgiving. Next week we will be talking all about Thanksgiving. And there's lots to be thankful for in the nation's capital and around the world. It's not enough for us to sit down and eat turkey and burp and fart and then sit in front of a TV and watch the Dallas Cowboys lose. No, we have to do a little bit more than that at a time period where our patriotism is questioned because we don't want orphans and widows to be made more orphaned and more widowed. And certainly at a time period where we're called xenophobes, racists, and any other negative name because we believe in the Constitution. It's going to take us sitting at the table and talking about what makes a people free, what is true liberty, and why we're thankful for a God who gave us all of that we do not waste it or squirrel it away for the sanctity of being loved by other people. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to welcome you to the Exceptional Conservative Show live from the nation's capital. Well, actually, we're in Tampa Bay, Florida this week. We're not ashamed of the good news of conservatism, for it is the power of liberation, first to the Republican and then the Socialist. Tonight we've been looking at the war on women, and we're virtually going to go head fast here. We've talked about the fact that in the Republican Party there is a woman who is running for the presidency of the United States of America, Carly Fiorina, and she has some very harsh sentiments towards Hillary Clinton. We also have Dr. Ben Carson, we have Ted Cruz and Marco Rubio, and so many others who have come to varying positions in life, understanding that conservatism, capitalism, constitutionalism, and Christianity are the tools which have forged us into a successful nation. And anything that is imported to destroy that from within or from without, we cannot allow. We just can't. But somehow, this ideal that because you don't believe in a power struggle in the bedroom, that somehow you are prejudiced against women. Somehow, all men, thanks to Bernie Sanders, must share the fate of being someone who is power hungry, looking for oppression, even in the halls of their own home. At least this is a description that socialists have towards men and women and their relationships. Well, let me ask you, how often did you turn on Donahue and see that expressed over the years? Did you? Or for those who are in my chat room, you probably did. How many times did you turn on Oprah and heard or saw that expressed? How often do you go to political settings and there is a socialist in your midst who expresses the fact that we are oppressive to women? I can cook, and I do love to cook. I make a mess when I do, which is why my wife doesn't want me cooking in the kitchen, but I don't mind cooking. That's not a role that decides my gender. What decides my gender is my creator. And my creator said that it's not because you are a woman that you're any less than a man, or not because you are a man that you're any less than a woman. In fact, you're equal in my image. And you have a role and responsibility. Those roles and responsibilities include dominion over the earth, over every creeping thing, over every false science, over every hockey stick. You have the authority and power that comes vested in me as God to represent me in the earth. So how did we get to the point where we're talking about women being tied up, bent down on their knees, and doing fellatio as a means of satisfying a man, literally rape? How did we get to the point where a socialist can run for the presidency of the United States? Well, don't want to be too obstructionist in your thinking here, but he wouldn't be the first socialist who made it to the presidency after such harsh treatment of women. I wonder, who is it that treated women so harshly as the first black president of the United States and was elected twice? Anyone ever hear the name Kathleen Willey? Ladies and gentlemen, it appears that in a party that prides itself on looking for the best interests of women, that the best interest of women is often forgotten. There seems to be no interest in the best interests of women, in fact. Especially when you become president of the United States and you sign an executive order forcing all of the contractors in the government to pay the wages equally amongst men and women, and yet you don't pay your staff that way. In fact, the Secretary of State, Hillary Clinton, who magically found $25 million in her portfolio of businesses, nonprofit businesses, and now redid her tax returns. So the Clinton Foundation redid their tax return. It's amazing how you could find $25 million. I lose $25 million every single day. Just hanging around someplace. But it's amazing how she's treated, and yet she did not treat her staff in the same manner in which she says she wants all women to be treated. And then we have this glass ceiling myth that somehow women can't make it to the top. Women can't be the best at what they are. Women can't make it because men are holding them back. Some of the most powerful women in the conservative, well, some of the most powerful leaders in the conservative movement are women. Women do make up 53% of the U.S. population today. That might be a little bit because of abortion, but nevertheless, they do. So what is it that attracts minorities and women to a party that sees them as less than human, more along the lines of chattel or property, a offense that has to be paid of and gotten rid of? I must tell you that African Americans have been so trained amongst elitists and black revolutionaries that they believe that the crumbs that fall from the table of the government that they support and pridefully vote individuals in to abuse them, they believe that whatever pittance comes from that particular table is a king's ransom, i.e., Mayor Muriel Bowser. Mayor Muriel Bowser has made a pledge, and she's a woman, a black woman, of making certain that $317 million go to small black business owners. $317 million out of the DC budget. And apparently everyone's jumping up and down, especially her political minions. You'll hear them in various meetings supporting such regalia. But when you look at the mathematics behind that, you would be appalled. But you know what? Elitists and socialists have determined that black people don't do the math. They're just happy with whatever falls from the crumbs, what crumbs fall from the table. Whatever falls, it's good enough for us, because we're finally getting back at the man. I want you to do me a favor real quick. I want you to take the number 317 million. And for one person, $317 million is quite a largesse. I mean, you're up there with some of the top performers in the country in terms of country music and pop music. $317 million, well, may be actually a tea kettle purchase by a certain pop, Taylor Swift, pop superstar. But in our time period, $317 million is a lot of money, right? I want you to divide that $317 million, and I'll put it in the chat roll for those who want to test me on that. 317 million, move that out of the way, 1, 2, 3, and 1, 2, 3. I want you to divide that by this number, 13, no, not thousand, no, not even million. I want you to divide that number by 13 billion. 317 million by $13 billion. I want you to understand that the DC government is a $13 billion industry, not including amendments of future taxing and revenue. $13 billion. Now, when you divide those two numbers together, 317 million by 13 billion, you literally are looking at no more than 2.4% of the entire budget. 2.4% of the entire budget. And people are ready to have a parade because a black woman has decided, thank you, Mary, that's pennies on the dollar, to make certain that black businesses get that small portion. But with individuals like myself, who I did spend a little time in public school before my parents sent me to a private school because of the gang warfare fighting that was going on there, and actually did well in terms of math, so much so that I still do income taxes for people. When you begin to tell people about these numbers and that it doesn't make sense for you to be holding a parade, in fact, it's an abomination that a industry that has $13 billion coming to it regales itself for giving you pennies on the dollar. But that's the power of the socialist movement. The power of the socialist movement has never been about equality. It has never been about women and feminism, and no. It has always been about power. Power in the bedroom, power in the relationships, power and control in life and its resources. So why are you saying all of this, kid? Shouldn't you be anxious about the fact that there are some businesses that will be making $317 million, kid? You know what I'm saying? That's a lot of money, man. You know, I can get me a new car. When your own look at you, hear me, when your own look at you and despise you, not publicly the way they despise me, because they know the enemy I am, and that I am a worthy advocate and a worthy warrior, and I don't mind tearing them down right in front of their faces. But you, my friend, you vote for them, you support them, you believe in their platform, you believe that they're looking out for your best interests, and they despise you. They hate you. You are, if there wasn't an election, they could get rid of you. And you think they don't see you that way. Let's talk about the way people see power. You're talking about an organization, Clinton Foundation, that receives money from a great many rivers of fortunes, per se. Many of those fortunes come from individual states which have quite an oppressive human rights background. Saudi Arabia, Jordan, so on, yada yada. But what do the socialists have in common with ISIS? I want you to pose that question to yourself right now. What do the socialists have in common with ISIS? They are both totalitarians. They both believe in establishing rules of order which causes you death and destruction and lifts them, the chosen few, out of the constraints of poverty and into the purposeful life of law and order. Their law, their order. Here's a law that you should be concerned about, because there is a socialist who is a California representative, Maxine Waters, who believes that America should accept Sharia law. I know what you're thinking. Ken, it's their religion. Let them do what they want to do. But Mohammedanism has never been a religion. It has been an excuse used behind the assault of religion, but it is a political cult. And what they have always sought is the subjugation of women. The powerful use of women as no more than a paper towel on the floor that can be dispensed to wipe up the messes and then tossed away and bitterly used. Many of you in the audience tonight have used the term, I could do bad by myself. Well, actually, those who come under the plier of Sharia law are doing bad with someone else. Sharia law is an Islamic legal system. It is an Islamic legal system. It's Mohammedanism on steroids, is what I say. And it provides an alternative to secular government. It is the institution of theocracy. Now, remember, Maxine Waters defies or defiles Christianity and thinks of leaders in Christianity as attempting to install theocracy. Well, our founding fathers did not choose theocracy, and neither do the modern fathers of the conservative movement. We just know that there's a moral order of right and wrong. You need to abide accordingly. Thus, there would be no law, and there would be no order, no justice, no peace, no justice. However, those in Mohammedanism practice Sharia law. Now, it is built around the framework of authority. It's built around the framework of the fact that the woman has no authority. Only the man does. And that the woman should be grateful that her uncle has to drive her to the store, or at least be in the car with her when she goes, or her husband has to be. This idea of her having a driver's license is foreign to you. Now, many months ago, I played clips of the PJ artist who spoke of the fact that many women here in America think that abuse is taking away a condom, while in Sharia, in some of the most prolifically abusive countries, it's not just getting to school, it's actually taking the acid off your face as you're walking, because you're going to school, that you actually have to fight through. You see, that's a war on women. But I digress. There are many interpretations of Sharia law, but many of them get to the point that the woman is subjugated as property of the man. Let's take a look at the marital rights. Okay, and in a few we're going to go to a break and then we'll come back, and I want to talk with you about the abortion law in socialists and how they've used that to destroy women. Yes, abortion was never meant to destroy the baby. It was meant to destroy you as a woman. Marital rights. A man is entitled to 4 wives according to Sharia law, but a woman can only have 1 husband. The husband pays a bride price or dower, which she is entitled to keep. The mahar is in exchange for sexual submission. Sexual submission is traditionally regarded as unconditional consent for the remainder of the marriage. I want you to understand the conversation that we just had in the last half hour about Bernie Sanders. It sounds pretty close to what? Sharia law. Let me put that there for Sharia law. You see, there is a commonplace here of understanding, which is why I wonder why women flock to the Socialist Democrat Party, flock to Mohammedanism when they seek to engage you in being nothing more than a flimsy doormat upon which to stand. The husband is responsible for the financial upkeep of the home, except in Syria, where millions of them have crossed over into Europe and are seeking to get away from their wives and children into freedom called the US of A. Check out the Daily Mail. You'll see that I was right, or last night's show. Wife beating is permitted according to some scholars. That's kind of like in urban America amongst the urban socialists or the elite African American guard, that collateral damage of domestic violence is okay as long as you don't have a gun in the house. Who needs to protect you when your man's beating you? There is no joint property in Sharia law. The man owns all the property. In fact, your property. And there's no specific minimum age for marriage. Although many agree to 12 or 13, some have married and been as young as 6 or 7. Here are the public rights under Sharia law. Since you are so pro Maxine Waters, that black woman could never do you any harm, could she? She's a woman. Under Sharia, women have lesser inheritance rights compared to men and lesser status as witnesses. Women are not allowed to drive in Saudi Arabia. Here are the modesty laws. Garments women are required to wear range from the hijab, which is a scarf covering the hair and the neck, and abaya, which is a cloak-like, loose-fitting overgarment, a niqab, a face veil worn in addition to the hijab and abaya, to a burqa, which is a full body and head cloak, which includes a netted rectangle over the eyes. Exactly what constitutes immodest dress? Let's find out. Violations of modesty laws are frequently met with violence in Muslim countries. That's right, you'll get beat for putting on that swimsuit. You will indeed. Dubai has notoriously strict public indecency laws. Many Western tourists have fallen foul of them in the past. Iranian President Rouhani has recently halted the activities of country's modesty police, but has handed over their remit to the Ministry of the Interior. The government's not doing it anymore, the church is. Some of you some of you who have gone to church with the little ruler, you understand what I'm talking about. Male guardianship. A woman becomes subservient to her husband and needs his permission to leave the house, take up employment, or to engage in fasting or forms of worship other than what is obligatory. An unmarried woman is under the guardianship of her nearest male relative. Now, I want to also go over Sharia law in this particular aspect. Who is affected by Sharia? Who is affected by Sharia? Any Muslim woman who undertakes, any Mohammedan woman who undertakes to be married under Islam is bound to a greater or lesser extent by Sharia, depending on where they live. Why do you think many of them are trying to escape Syria and the Middle East? They're trying to get away from Sharia law, and there are women here trying to install it. Why? Because women like Whoopi Goldberg fear Islam more than they fear God, Jesus Christ. And why do they fear Islam more than they fear God, Jesus Christ? Because they can be blown away while sitting at a table in Gay Paris, sipping a good Chablis, because they drew a cartoon of Muhammad. While you can watch South Park or Adult Swim or any other TV show or movie today, and jokes are made about Jesus left and right. And where are the Christians on that? Oh, it's funny. It's amazing how a violent group of people are seen as peaceful, and how a peaceful group of people are seen as fools. When we come back, I want to talk with you about abortion and socialism, and how those on the left, those totalitarians, have used abortion to make women nothing more than sexual property, sexual chocolate. They can be easily thrown away with the wrapper. We'll be back with more of the best in urban conservative talk. These are the last commercials for the night.
Christopher Arnold. I'm the executive chef of Infused Restaurant, and today I'm gonna walk you through some of the meals that we prepare here. We're making a pizza. We use French Italian sausage that we cook here and slice it up. Our pizza dough is an in-house made. Our pizza sauce is in-house made. So everything is fresh and green. This is our Thai curry chicken. The sauce is made with coconut milk and a Thai red curry. It is juicy chicken thighs as well as some mixed vegetables, served with jasmine rice and pita bread. So now we're going to prepare our famous blackened tilapia and grits, our fish and grits on the menu. And our meal will be complete. Let me tell you about our infused beef burgers. We keep the spice up just a little bit with our infused sauce. We start off with 80-20 USDA ground chuck ham patty burgers, like half a pound of burgers, and we're going to grill it to perfection. After I flip the burger, we add the sauce and then it comes on into the meat just a little bit. We're going to add a little bit of pepper jack cheese to this burger to spice it up a bit.
That's mine. That's mine. I'm letting y'all know right now, when I get back to Washington, D.C., I'm going to infuse 6339 Allentown Road, Temple Hills, Maryland, 20748 301 449 9000. Infuse.com. Infuse.com.
Right. It's gonna be a right swipe. This man has shaved his chest hair into a heart. Oh, just don't mind. Right swipe.
Right swipe. Right swipe. That kind of looks like my sister. It does. But I know she's not.
He's cuddling. I can't. Oh my God, I want to eat their faces.
Oh, she's hot.
Oh, wait a minute. Oh.
That's a lollipop. Oh, that is not a lollipop. Left swipe.
Left swipe.
This must be some kind of joke. If you think you're my type and I'm my type, you're good in the class. I just left swipe, bye-bye. I just left swipe.
Left swipe that.
Swipe, you gotta swipe it left.
Yeah.
You gotta swipe it
Left
left.
swipe that.
Swipe, you gotta swipe it left. This is stuff I don't like, so I gotta
Left swipe that.
Look at you with your shirt off, flexing. You're buff, but you pop hashtag complex. Yeah, you worked out, you're in shape. Okay, I like the six-pack abs, not the six-packs a day.
Came across a photo of this green-eyed body. Oh, nah, pretty face, tight waist, nice body. I just couldn't overlook one small fact.
She smokes like an old man at a racetrack.
This must be some kind of joke. I think you're my type, and I'm not type. You're good in the class. I just left swipe, bye-bye. I just left swipe.
Left swipe that.
Swipe, you gotta swipe it left.
Yeah.
You gotta swipe it
Left
left.
swipe that.
Swipe, you gotta swipe it left. This is stuff I don't like, so I gotta
Left swipe that.
Mr. World Traveler, trips look expensive. Sitting on a mountaintop looking all offensive. I was about to ask, how's the air up there? But based on this pic, I guess you don't really care.
Lots of chicks in the pic, not sure which one's you. Them cigarettes are taking off from tins to twos. And one thing's true about your whole crew. None of you cigarella's gonna be my boo.
Smoking with a tiger.
Left swipe that.
When you're on a hang glider.
Left swipe that. Smoking while acting healthy. Left swipe that.
Smoking all stealthy.
Left swipe that. Smoking with a duck face. Left swipe that.
At a monster truck race.
Left swipe that. Smoking at the prom. Left swipe that.
Giving it a photo bomb.
He don't care. Left swipe that.
Swipe, you gotta swipe it left.
Yeah.
You gotta swipe it
Left
left.
swipe that.
Swipe, you gotta swipe it left. This is stuff I don't like, so I gotta
and I will always remember you. Listen, I want to thank you all so much for tuning in tonight. You're listening to the Exceptional Conservative Show live from Tampa, Florida. We will be back in the nation's capital, hopefully, by God's grace and mercy, on Monday night, and we will come back to you live at that time period, 9 p.m., and we will be talking about Thanksgiving and all that we need to be thankful for, and during the course of that whole week, we'll be talking about Thanksgiving in America. Also, on Sunday, we will be live at 7 a.m. in American Conservatives Exploration of the Inspired Word of God. And trust me, I don't know exactly what I'm going to say on Sunday, because every time I go into my office with a biblical outline of exactly what I want to talk about, God laughs at me, he tears it up, he tells me, do what I'm going to tell you to do. So, I will be his mouthpiece on Sunday morning. I can assure you that 7 a.m. Be in the chat roll at the exceptionalconservativeshow.com or SHR Media Live chat roll. And if you do that, or you can go to Pundit Press Media or Rebooting Liberty, USTREAM or live stream. If you go to any of those particular places, you'll be able to get it live and fresh. And I tell you, it is nothing like hearing the Lord at 7 a.m. in the morning. I tell you. And listen, on Saturday at 5 p.m. on WNJC 1360 a.m. out of the great city of brotherly love, Philadelphia, we will be doing New Day Black and Red. And you all know I'm the sidekick of that show. Even though I'm the creator of it, I'm the sidekick apparently. We give a biblical as well as a constitutional viewpoint of the issues that be. And the #1 urban talk band in all the world, so black he's blind, the Underground Professor, Dr. Michael Jones, is co-hosting with me, and we love being together and talking about the issues of the day and politics in general as the way it appears to God and to man. Now, also want to tell you that tomorrow at 3 p.m., I will be on the air with the great, lovable, affable, feel the brown nose, I'm kissing up, lovable dictator, benevolent dictator that he is, Rick Trader, and we got some great guests for tomorrow's show. 3:35, you all know I talked about the other night how Helen Rowley came out with an article called The Red Guard on American College Campuses, and we did a show just a few days earlier. Well, guess what? Helen Rowley at 3:35 will be on the air with us. We'll be talking about the Red Guard on America's college campuses, ladies and gentlemen. Without a shadow of a doubt, it's happening. Communism has come to America. You need to be ready to fight against it, even if it's your kids. At 4:05, Dr. Joel Lamero, and we love Gerard Lamero, forgive me. We'll be on the air. We'll be talking about where the Paris attacks a botched assassination attempt. Wasn't an assassination attempt that just went wrong. It's what we're going to talk about at 4:05. And at 4:35, David Kuplian will join us. He is the author of a great many books regarding foreign policy and ISIS and the Islamic radical jihadists, the radical Muslims. That's what they are. That's what they are. They all have one thing in common, and it's the Quran. Okay? And I'm sorry, you just don't see Christians going out and pointing a can and putting a firebomb within it and blowing up an airplane over Turkey. We don't do that. As much as you like to say that we do, we don't do that. But David Kuplian will be with us. We'll be talking about the delusional president. And it's not the first time it's been said. It's often said many people are concerned that the president of the United States may be not necessarily the most fit man. And I'm not talking about the ability to play basketball. Okay, there might be some other issues. And so we'll be talking about the delusional president. Ladies and gentlemen, final time I want to tell you tonight, Stockings for Soldiers Delaware Incorporated was founded to improve the morale and welfare of members of the armed forces of the United States of America deployed in harm's way. We accomplish our mission by sewing holiday stockings and filling them with special items for the troops. Many of the stockings that we send are for a specific person with their name on the stocking. For many troops, our gift is all they receive for the holidays. We're trying to send a touch of home as well as personal messages of support to remind our troops that we appreciate all they do for us and to let them know that they have not been forgotten over the holidays. Please don't do that. Don't forget them. We depend on the generosity of others to help us to accomplish our vital mission. Stockings for Soldiers, Delaware Incorporated, is a 501c3 nonprofit organization. As such, donations are deductible to the extent allowed by law. Please consult your local tax professional for more information. If you would like to make a donation to one of our community projects, please send your check to Stockings for Soldiers, Delaware Incorporated, 1911 Folk Road, F-O-U-L-K Road, Wilmington, Delaware, 19810. They thank you, and we thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, we've been talking about the war on women, and the true war on women has nothing to do with the GOP. It has nothing to do with the conservative movement. It has nothing to do with the Tea Party. What is really fascinating is how blind those individuals who happen to be women within the socialist movement pretend that the socialist movement loves them and cares for them, even though they have socialists that would like to install Sharia law, even though they have a socialist who's running for president of the United States who is clearly stating that men and women can't have sexual relations or any type of relationship because there's always a power grab involved, including rape. This is the way that they see you. They see you, Miss and Mrs. It doesn't matter, even if you're married to them. They see you as property, chattel. They see you as a burden or a responsibility. And like the mayor of the District of Columbia, who would like to give a pittance to black small businesses out of the entire $13 billion budget of the city government, there are those who see you just in that fashion. You know, all we have to do in this abortion industry is to make certain that we give you a certain amount of money every month in subsidy, and you can continue to have children out of wedlock. You may even give up children. It doesn't matter to us. But we love you. We care for you. We want you to remain poor and in harm's way. We want you to be comfortable in your poverty. I've never heard a conservative ever say, I wanted you to be comfortable in your poverty. In fact, most conservatives will tell you, Miss or Mrs., that poverty is not something that endears you to comfort. In fact, it should be the thing that motivates you into prosperity. Having lack creates the opportunity to innovate so that you may prosper. You were never meant to be, and you know that from our reading earlier out of Genesis, you were never meant to be as a woman, broke, busted, and disgusted. Never. Yet you've been sold a bill of goods, and in fact you will fight to maintain Medicaid and welfare and food stamps because they make you comfortable in your poverty, and it makes it seem like someone really cares. Ladies and gentlemen, a gentleman wrote for PJ Media recently. His name is Roger Simon, and he wrote Glaciers at the New York Times, the Democrats' War on Women and Blacks. And I'm going to put that in the chat room because I want you all to take it and make it viral. That's the term that people use. Make it viral. The New York Times, those who are in the know, in the conservative movement, know that there is a conspiracy against you as a minority. While we conspire to prosper you, there are those who are conspiring to keep you broke and broken. Broke and broken. You see, broken people are like elephants who have gotten used to a heavy chain on their leg. You could put a rope around their leg. They have gotten used to the heaviness of the chain, so they think that the rope is so heavy it won't be moved or can't be moved. So they remain in their position and they'll stay there. They have been trained to accept the crumbs from the table rather than the king's ransom. He writes, Simon writes, when I grew up, I thought the Democrat Party was the great friend of minorities and women. The party wanted a world of equality, I thought. Most people I know believe that too. Sorry, I was an idiot. Here's our contemporary world as it actually exists. Ayaan Hirsi Ali, a woman who had her clitoridectomy, her clitoris was cut off, and has had literally hundreds of death threats, maybe thousands, risking her life daily fighting the horrible mistreatment of her sex under Islamic Sharia, has her honorary degree withheld by Brandeis University, while Hillary Clinton, the putative Democrat Party nominee, still I guess, for president, takes multi-million-dollar donations from Saudi Arabia where women aren't even allowed to drive. Think about it. Barack Obama, the first black president, comes into office and black unemployment actually increases, while for the first time in years, relations between the races in our country are reported in a recent poll to be worse by both blacks and whites. Something's wrong with that picture too. Did Americans suddenly become more racist, or is it something else? That something being the policies of the Democrat Party, which we call Socialist Party today. Encouraging division and then living off those same divisions like a parasitic animal. The Republican Party is unoppressive, to be sure, but the Democrat Party is indeed an animal feeding on our nation and making it weaker and weaker. The way that party approaches women and blacks is quite remarkably similar. Treat them as a unified interest group and then exploit them. How insulting. How deeply reactionary. If I were a woman or a black, I would be disgusted. Obviously, not enough are yet. So we live in what the French call la vie à l'envers, life upside down. Do we change the situation as it continues to grow worse or just disappear? Go about our private lives, go John Galt, as they say. People must decide for themselves, but I know I am emotionally unfit to go, John Galt. I have to fight. And as Lady Gaga would say, I am born that way. But the problem for those of us who feel we have to fight for whatever reason is that it is extremely difficult for us to get to the other side to see the truth. They are so stuck in the 1968 vision of the world and even more of themselves that they resist movement and will be in denial until their dying day. So often we end up fighting with each other. Is that not the Socialist Party of today? Is Mr. Simon smoking something, or is he on to something? I think the latter rather than the first. You see, under Sharia law, these are some of the plights that you will face in a totalitarian system, one that the socialists would love to join someday. Theft is punishable by the amputation of the right hand. Criticizing or denying any part of the Quran is punishable by death. And you all go off on the Bible every single day, you socialists, you. Criticizing or denying Muhammad as a prophet is punishable by death. Criticizing or denying Allah, the moon god of Islam, is punishable by death. A Muslim who becomes a non-Muslim is punishable by death. A non-Muslim who leads a Muslim away from Islam is punishable by death. Oh wow, this is a religion of peace now, isn't it? A non-Muslim who marries a Muslim away from Islam is punishable by death. A non-Muslim man who marries a Muslim woman is punishable by death. A man can marry an infant girl and consummate the marriage when she is 9 years old. Girls' clitoris should be cut off, per Muhammad's words in Book 41, Kitab al-Adab, Hadith 5251. A woman can have one husband, but a man can have 4 wives. Muhammad can have more. A man can unilaterally divorce his wife, but a woman needs her husband's consent to divorce. A man can beat his wife for insubordination. Testimonies of 4 male witnesses are required to prove rape against a woman. Wow, that must have really worked in the Kathleen Willey thing, huh? A woman who has been raped cannot testify in court against her rapist. A woman's testimony in court, allowed only in property cases, carries half the weight of a man's, which works well if you're Bernie Sanders writing about men-women relationships. A woman cannot drive a car, as it leads to fitna, upheaval. Oh, she's going to get beyond herself. We can't have that. A woman cannot speak alone to a man who is not her husband or relative. Meal to be eaten must come from animals that have been sacrificed to Allah. Halal. Muslims should engage in taqiyya and lie to non-Muslims to advance Islam. And the list goes on. And the band played on. The abortion issue. And for now. Mr. Simmons was right. He writes, okay, the author, Amy Chozick, used the weasel word apparent to modify an obvious contradiction. And sure, she ends her article in time-honored New York Times fashion with a quote slightly favoring Hillary for her book. Did Chozick actually read it? Merit badge, please. But still, we must be patient. As we know, glaciers move slowly, unless you really, really believe in climate change. So we're watching the glaciers. And one of the most tenuous glaciers floating upon the sea, in which most of us can agree. And I spoke with Jersey Joe, and he is a man with some great medical background, EMT specialist that he was. And we both agree that there is a less than 1% probability for a medical condition leading to an abortion. Less than 1%. We would stretch it. And we, in our conversation, Jersey Joe, we were common sense. You got to listen to a show on SHR. We could stretch it as far as 2%. Maybe 2%. But our technology has become so great in the field of obstetrics and gynecology, even that's questionable. So here goes. Even if the standard deviation is 5%, and I mean that's really a high standard deviation, 3, and 2 maybe, but not 5, but we'll go with 5. Do you mean to tell me that 95% of the other abortions in our country are the direct result of a medical condition? I love the fact that the socialists say that we need to work on policies that make abortions rare and only medically necessitable. And yet, when it comes to the concept of 95% of abortions being non-medically necessary, should not the question be, is this birth control? And if it's birth control, is the baby property? And if the baby is property, then the holder of the property is a chest, a vessel, and also property. And if so, as much as we proclaim that she has rights, especially sovereign right over the child in her womb, the right as God to pronounce life or death as a piece of property, then by golly, as property, isn't she being treated like property? The Socialist Labor Party made a statement and I'll put that in the chat roll. And this was back in 1976 about abortion. And I want you to understand that as the Democrat Party has grown, it has merged with the Socialist Party. They write, there are some issues in capitalist society which, though not the defining central issues of the time, nevertheless become the focus of sharp political debate and mobilize large numbers of people to action. One of these issues is abortion. Let me go down. Oh no, that would be rape. Proletarian morality is what they write. The fact that socialism stands in opposition to such barbarianism is a reflection of its progressive nature, of the fact that it represents the next higher stage of society and will bring a higher level of human morality. But to begin with absolute ideals is to turn the class struggle into a moral crusade and to forget its real historical basis. Even the higher working class morality that socialism represents is restricted by the environment of class society and cannot completely transcend it. It is still a class society, and though it represents the interests of the overwhelming portion of society, it too is not absolute perfection. As Engels explained, that morality is most secure which possesses the most elements promising duration, which represents in the present the revolution of the present, that is to say, the proletarian morality of the future. A real human morality, a real human morality, a real human morality, standing above class antagonisms in the memory thereof, will first be possible in a stage of society in which class antagonisms have been surmounted and in practical life also forgotten. Can I tell you what the utopia means? You can create life. You can destroy life. Oh, how great you are. It is good to eat from the tree of good and evil. Ladies and gentlemen, there is no joy in Mudville when our children are dying by the millions each year, thanks to abortion. When our children are created in the image of God and treated like property in their demise. When women are treated like chattel and abortion is the best birth control option you have since you cannot afford a free condom. When Sharia law seems to be the only surmountable thing that socialists will endure. When Bernie Sanders writes that it's okay for a woman to be raped in her household because there's a class and power struggle going on. And yet God began with us and said he made us in his image, male and female. The real war on women, it's not done by the Tea Party, it's not done by conservatives, it's not done by the GOP. The real war on women is done by the women who subscribe to totalitarianism around the world. Yes, you are personally responsible for the subsequent death, destruction, and hardship on many women because you believe the utopia will come, the human morality will satisfy, and being a Democrat conservative or Democrat socialist is the best thing since Swiss cheese. I hope tonight you listened and understood that the real war on women begins with you, Mom, and it spreads abroad. A man once told me to live bravely so that you will never die cowardly. I promise you I always will. As has been said many times before, but it becomes sweeter every time it is said. America has blessed God Now it's time for America. Well, forgive me. God has blessed America. Now it's time for America to bless God. God bless you. Thank you for listening. I'll see you in Washington, D.C. next week on the Exceptional Conservative Show. Good night and God bless.